Hi Leo, welcome to your reading for the month of July. My name is Wendy and I'll be using the Robin Wood Tarot today for your reading. We're going to look at this month from the perspective of the bloom cycle. So we're going to look at what's blooming in your life and what is being released at the same time. So you may find that you're having to make space for something new that's growing. And then we'll look at what you're meant to take away from this, or the wisdom being gained. It's not that I want to dictate your lessons or what you're meant to take away from this experience, but I think sometimes when you're just in the middle of it, it can feel quite overwhelming, or it's like, what's the point of this? What am I learning? What am I gaining from this, right? When you're in the middle, it's hard to see where something's going. So I think it'll help with some insight. Okay, Leo, what is blooming in your life? You have the Queen of Cups. So it looks like you're going into a little bit more of an internal space. Your happy early birthday, by the way. Your birthday season is starting in about a week and a half, and you'll have a new moon at the very beginning of your season as well. And interestingly, you're going into a more introspective sort of, I want to say solitary. I think that there's something quite special and sacred that you want to make time for with that Queen of Cups. Really the way that she's admiring her cup, and she's got her back up to the world with her gorgeous shell throne, and she's looking out at the water, having kind of a peaceful moment to herself. It's like maybe you want to incorporate more time to just sit and be. You know, if whether you have a balcony or a patio space or you're on a lake, whatever you have, it's taking that time to just sit and be and listen to things passing by, hear the wind in the trees, reflect on things. The Queen of Cups spends a lot of time in reflection. Now, I do want to caution as well, sometimes with the Queen of Cups, she can isolate herself. I apologize. My cat was all over me when I was getting ready. We like to do beauty together, so he's like, let's do beauty with Mama, and he jumps up on me, and I have to pretend to do his eyeshadow and brush him. And I am kind of allergic, so I feel like I'm a little bit like tickly and congested, so I do apologize for that. But the Queen of Cups goes into this sort of sometimes isolated space where she doesn't feel safe enough to venture out into something, so she keeps it to herself. Now there's a few different aspects or dimensions to this. When that is a chosen space, it can be very healing and it can be very important and significant. Sometimes you just need those days where you're inside in a safe space. Queen of Cups likes to be safe, right? Feeling held, feeling supported, even if she's by herself. And she connects to these beautiful things from her past. She looks through her collections. She looks through old photos. She maybe spends time learning a new beauty routine, right? That time in front of the Art Deco vanity that you might have. There's, and for masculine energy watching as well, it is going into more of that feminine space, that internal space. But are you worried that you don't have support? Are you worried that you are too isolated? I mean, there's something that she's holding on to that she's not sharing with someone else. She could feel too vulnerable. She might be worried about something. You know, sometimes when you're so intuitive and sensitive like the Queen of Cups, sometimes when we haven't really honed in that strength or that ability, we get these other little sensitive nudges, and sometimes that's quite high vibration, right? So it can feel a bit anxious or ungrounded. So to feel safe in this energy, because you are very intuitive, psychically connected, it is an internal reflective time. And I do think this is because you have that new moon happening right at the beginning of your season, that it is that time of, I've got to have faith. And that's why in this bloom cycle, I talk about what's being released, because, for example, I have this beautiful little rose bush or rose tree. And at the beginning of the season, there's all these bright, vibrant flowers. I'm sitting there and I'm admiring my garden, and I'm feeling so at peace and in admiration of this gorgeous natural work of art. But then a few weeks later, those blooms start to shrivel up. They start to change color, they shrivel, and they disintegrate. And I think, oh gosh, what have I done? I've done something wrong. I'm a failure. I can't take care of something so precious and beautiful, right? A lot of self-doubt. But in that release or disintegration phase, that is very much like a new moon phase where you have to have the faith. You know, it's about planting the seed and having faith that what you've invested in will come to fruition, will pay off. No matter what you're doing, everything in life goes through an ebb and flow, relationships, finances, and you've had a lot of activity in your sign since the beginning of the year. You've had Mars spend a lot of time with you, going retrograde and then going direct again. You've had Venus. You've had significant personal planets really connecting with you and helping you evaluate what matters. And you may find that you're going through a shift and you need to be a little more isolated or a little quieter as you navigate these new impressions, these new feelings. But I really feel that a lot of you are connecting to this artistic, sensitive side of self that can open up so much. But it really requires us to quiet the outside noise and connect in. And if you can be near the water element, that might really help you, whether it's the sound of water, a little water feature in your home. Maybe you even, you even have a water fountain for your cats, and there's something about that water movement that is quite soothing to us in a very primal way. So as you are blooming into this Queen of Cups, what makes you feel safe? What connects you to the things that matter? How much time are you spending doing those things that connect you to yourself? So it is a bit of a withdrawn, quieter time, and that's okay. So that's what you're coming into, and I think we kind of stereotype Leo as this like center stage energy. I will say that Leos are I don't know if I fully agree with that description all the time. I think Leos are quite introspective and strong sense of values. And you're not afraid to stand up for what matters to you, right? So the Queen of Cups too is like, there's all this stuff going on around me. I'm feeling it all. And so I'm feeling quite worn out. So I do need to go into my safe space and maybe just, watch my favorite comfort movie, my favorite comfort show, get under a blanket on the couch or in my bed, just in a very safe way. It's like, it's nurturing yourself. It's like being your own, it's a maternal figure, being your own mother in a way, just really taking care of yourself, eating comforting foods, and soothing that nervous system. So again, the movement of water is very therapeutic. It really helps soothe. And breathing exercises as well. If you can manage 5 minutes a day, just to check in with your breathing and do some really deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Research does show that 5 minutes is easy enough to commit to, but it's significant enough that it has an effect and it helps bring us into this calmer state of being. And that actually opens up your psychic perception in a bigger way, where you've quieted that outside noise and you're able to really tune into how you're feeling and anything that's coming through. So it's quite profound, and there's something about this time of year as well that I keep flipping through a photo album in my mind. I don't know if you're connecting to that, but with the Queen of Cups, I see this profound connection to memories, mementos, like memory boxes. Maybe you're setting something up for yourself or another person. There's like this collection of memories, what matters to you. And so I do want to say, again, we go through this phase of being the Queen of Cups, but we have to be careful that we're not spending, it's easy to get kind of stuck in that place where we lose trust in everything and we really isolate due to a fear of not being understood. So the Queen of Cups is quite sensitive deep down, but she's not sharing that with anyone because it feels too vulnerable. It feels like she doesn't feel safe for some reason. So how can we connect to that feeling of safety? Let us see. Oh, wow. What are you releasing is the Queen of Swords. So with the Queen of Swords as the release, or what's, disintegrating, she's actually got a rose bush behind her. Isn't that profound? She's the words. She feels like space. This could be an air sign person, but it feels like Queen of Swords generally is an energy of negativity, like an energy that brings the storm clouds in. And so I think you're really trying to take cover as these storm clouds roll in. And if you're like me, I love to, and I like sharing these little things with people because they bring so much joy and value to my daily life. On my little patio, I've got my rose tree that I look at, and some other lovely little plants and flowers, and some nice wrought iron kind of furniture that I sit on and I work at. And we recently put up a shade canopy, and it has completely changed the way I view summertime. I used to kind of avoid the outside there, so like think about this just metaphorically. There was something I was avoiding because it felt too harsh. I felt too exposed. But then all of a sudden with this shade canopy above me, it doesn't matter the temperature outside, I'm out there all day long. And the fresh air is really nice for thinking as I'm working on my thesis papers. And, it changes how I view something that used to feel like I absolutely could not be part of it or take part in it. And then I adapted it, and there's a way for me to feel safe and to also have that relaxing sensation, right? In order for someone to relax, they have to feel safe. This is often a concern with therapy clients or people who are just getting into meditation or yoga or anything like that. You have to feel safe before you can sit and breathe. Like the thought of sitting and breathing for 5 minutes can be very overwhelming for someone who has kind of been in this conflictual space, inner or outer. And so it feels like safety is like what holds you, what makes you feel safe. And Queen of Swords is saying, like, I'm done talking about it, I'm done communicating about it. Queen of Swords is releasing something. You are releasing the release. You're actually holding on to something with that Queen of Cups. She wants to hold on to it. So I'm feeling for some of you, because the Queen of Swords is my goodbye card. And maybe you're releasing the thought of having this closure. Sometimes we don't have closure in situations. Maybe you've released that where you thought you'd get like your last kind of the answers you needed or the last say. That communication element, I feel like you're just releasing what it means to have release and maybe redefining that. And for a lot of you, this may not actually be an ending, but it's just a time of you needing this distance and this safety and this quiet, it doesn't mean the feelings aren't there, but it just means that you need to take cover right now. And you don't have to be out in the open air, exposed to the wind, proving how tough you are as you let the elements have at you. You know, there's new ways of defining strength. And for you right now, the strength is quite soft. Oh, wow. What are you meant to learn or take away from this? You've got the High Priestess. So, Leo, there's a lot of, this is all divine feminine energy. Queen of Swords is the most masculine of the cards we have here. Let me just show you all three for a minute. Queen of Swords is the most masculine. She applies a lot of logic, but she can be combative and argumentative and oppositional sometimes just for the sake of arguing. But yeah, that Queen of Swords would previously, like, as an energy, maybe the approach was to throw everything out or just cut things off, you know, feeling cold. But what's blooming in your life is the Queen of Cups, so you actually want to hold on to some of those things and cherish them. And then to gain wisdom as the High Priestess, it's so profound, very much similar to that Queen of Cups. You're finding comfort in the silence, finding comfort in being alone. You're seeing the peacefulness of it as opposed to like the isolation or maybe there was some negative interpretation that you had of this experience. But I think you're recognizing that in that silence and in that peace, you connect in to the self, the higher self, the elements, everything that is around you, all that is. And it opens you because you're in this peaceful, open space. You feel more trusting, and the messages start to come through. So a lot of you are changing the way that you connect to spirit, connect to yourself, connect to the world generally. There's a whole new method of expression, a whole new method of feeling. And it's not so much about expression right now. We're releasing that. This is a time of taking it in, understanding, active listening, and reflection, right? To be able to listen to something and then put it in your own words to show that you understand it. And that takes time. I'm feeling that this really does take time to integrate and absorb and really feel something, but to understand it, you kind of have to go through that phase. Maybe you just want to know how you actually feel about something. And you do that by getting very quiet and just seeing what remains consistent. And your intuition becomes a lot louder, becomes stronger. The High Priestess is the lady alone. So some of you finding peace and pride in that single life. I think a lot of you have a profound psychic connection to something or someone right now, dreams. The energy is around you, and I feel like a lot of you could be doing more magical practices like candle work, journaling, intention setting, living intentionally. But the High Priestess is a quiet knowing and a quiet understanding, and it tells me that you're mastering all of those queens and balancing to become the High Priestess. She knows without saying. It really feels like you're meant to keep something to yourself for now. Go into observation mode. You're meant to connect to a very ancient part of self that can only be heard when the modern world is quieted. And I'm noticing too how much freer the High Priestess is. Maybe with these queens, because I'm noticing how like their gowns, their scarves, chokers, the hairdos and everything, right? The queens have this image to uphold. The High Priestess can just be. Maybe you're wanting to be a little bit more of your wild self, more free, not worried about having what other people expect of you. I feel like you're just wanting to let your hair down and be a little more wild and free and connected to the elements. I feel wind strongly. I would say the element that I feel so strongly for you right now is wind, which indicates change. Something's on the wind. But wind is always there, but it's not always something we consciously recognize or pay attention to, right? So what else do you notice when you can hear the wind? I'm going to leave that there, Leo. I do hope you have a wonderful month ahead, and if you would like a personal reading with me, my books are open again for the first time in such a long time. I will leave the information for that in the description box. It has been so lovely conducting this reading for you. I hope that it's helpful, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next one for August. Happy birthday!